I have a story for you today that is really two stories coming together. Story one is the story of dishonest Fox News graphics and charts. Story two is about labor force conspiracy theories, which we've talked about before. And the graphic in question here is one that Fox News put up on the screen yesterday to try to make Joe Biden look bad, which simply says the American workforce, Trump peak, 164 million people working. Biden last month, only 161 million people working, making the point that there are 3.1 million fewer people in the workforce as of last month under Joe Biden than at the peak during Donald Trump's administration. Now, I hope that by now, people who have been watching the show, listening to the show for a while, know at least two reasons why this is so deceptive. But the labor force stuff is really frequently used by the right to attack Democrats. So I think it's important to talk about all of it. So first of all, without knowing anything about how the labor force participation rate or labor force participation numbers are quantified, calculated, without knowing anything at all, you should be suspicious as soon as you see the Trump peak compared with last month. This is called cherry picking of data. The data for the Trump peak is December of 2019. They picked that number instead of the number at the end of Donald Trump's presidency. Why? Well, because the labor force has grown since Donald Trump left office. If you compare the end of Trump's term to right now, you would have to say the labor force has grown under Joe Biden. So they pick December of 2019. Now, to that end, why has the labor force been all over the place? It's been because of the pandemic, and that's still not over. So even at the top level, a comparison over the last couple years of the labor force participation is of dubious value. It's a different time in American history because of the pandemic. So yes, Fox News is being really deceptive. They're cherry picking. They're leaving out information. Their viewers are mostly clueless. They see this and they say, oh my God, what a disaster Biden has been. But there's even more instructive stuff here. The labor participation rate in general isn't a good indicator of how the economy is doing. And in fact, in a good economy, the labor participation rate and the number of people out of the labor force can go down. Wait, sir, what? How is that possible? This is how it's possible. The labor force participation rate is a measure of an economy's active workforce. So it's when we talk about there's 161 million or 164 million people in the labor force, we are saying this is the sum total of all workers employed or seeking employment. Remember, the way it's measured, if you're unemployed but looking for work, you're in the labor force. If you stop looking for work, you're out of the labor force. But if you retire, you're out of the workforce. If you're 20 and in college full time, you're out of the workforce and you reduce the labor participation rate. So think about that. Really think about it. If you have a bad economy, there are people who would love to retire, but they can't afford to. So they need a job. So they get one. The labor participation rate has just gone up, but it's because the economy is bad that someone who would like to be retired has gotten a job. Okay? If the economy is bad, a college student might have to drop out of school and get a job to help their family. So the economy being bad has increased the labor participation rate by forcing a college student to go and get a job. That's not a good statistic by itself to tell us how the economy is doing or whether a president is doing a good job. If wages went up, now think about the opposite. If wages went up and the economy did well, you would see more people say, great, I can now retire. Up, labor participation rate goes down, but it's because the economy is good. One last thing, and this is like a systemic thing about these numbers. The population of the United States is increasing over time. It's very common that at any given time, the number of people working is at a record high, and the number of people not working is also at a record high. So think about that for a second. In 2010, the population of the United States was 308 million in 2010. Okay. Let's just make the numbers really easy. Forget about the fact that children aren't considered in the rate. Just make it 50-50. 308 million people. So in 2010, you could have had 154 million people working and 154 million people not working. We're ignoring kids and people not counted. So in 2010, you could say breaking record number of people working, and you'd be right. And at the same time, you could say breaking record number of people not working, and you would be right. Then we get to 2021. We now have 330 million people in the United States. Make it 50-50, okay? We could have 165 million people working. That's a record. And 165 million people not working. That's a record too. So I hope that this shows how useless these numbers can be when the population keeps increasing in the country anyway. So don't fall for this stuff. Don't fall for this stuff. Be informed. And we'll have the graphic. If you're just listening today, we'll put the graphic up on our Instagram, which you can find at David Pakman Show. One of our sponsors is Kamikoto, making elegant, high-end, beautiful Japanese steel kitchen knives using traditional techniques from Honshu, Japan. I've been a big fan of Japanese kitchen knives for a long time. They have some great advantages. When you look closely at a Kamikoto knife, you see the quality of the ironwork. They only use Japanese steel. Every knife comes in a perfect heavy-duty ash wood box, makes storage really easy. It looks great in your kitchen or drawer. The balance of the knives is just amazing. I've been using them for everything. Every knife comes with a lifetime guarantee. On their website, you can see the complete list of chefs at Michelin star restaurants who use Kamikoto. And through this partnership they're doing with us, Kamikoto is giving you $50 off on top of their other special offers. Just go to kamikoto.com/Pakman and use the code Pakman for $50 off. The link is down below.